The lights of the view stage burned bright, bouncing off the shiny surface of the long glass table where 5 women sat poised for another morning of conversation, laughter, and confrontation. Joy Behar adjusted her red-rimmed glasses, flipping through a stack of cue cards as she glanced at the teleprompter. She already knew what was coming. Dr. Phil McGraw was today's guest. The producers were thrilled. A clash between Joy and Dr. Phil was practically guaranteed to draw headlines. The studio audience murmured with excitement. Cameras rolled into position. On the sidelines, producers huddled behind their monitors, whispering in quick bursts, checking angles, cues, and commercial breaks. A floor assistant raised her hand, 3 fingers, 2, 1, then pointed. The theme music faded, applause thundered, and Whoopi Goldberg's smooth voice carried across the set. Welcome back to The View. We've got a very special guest joining us today. He's a psychologist, author, and one of television's most recognizable voices. Please welcome Dr. Phil McGraw. The audience erupted in cheers as Dr. Phil strode out from backstage, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing his signature dark suit and a calm, knowing smile. He shook Whoopi's hand, nodded toward Sunny and Alyssa, then looked squarely at Joy. His gaze wasn't hostile, just steady, observant. The kind of look that said he saw more than you wanted him to. Good to see you all, he said, his Texas drawl filling the room. Joy leaned forward, flashing a bright, almost forced grin. Welcome to The View, Dr. Phil. We've got a lot to unpack with you today. I'm ready for it, he replied smoothly, lowering himself into his chair. At first, the conversation was light. Talk of his latest book on emotional resilience, how society was losing its ability to handle disagreement, and the decline of accountability in modern life. The audience nodded and clapped politely. But as always on The View, it didn't take long for the tone to shift. Joy tilted her head, her expression shifting into that familiar half-smirk. Dr. Phil, you've been accused more than once of turning serious psychological problems into entertainment. Some people say your show simplifies complex mental health issues for TV ratings. Do you think that's fair criticism? Dr. Phil didn't flinch. He folded his hands on the table and met her gaze. Joy, what I do is bring issues that people usually whisper about into the daylight. I give people a voice who might otherwise go unheard. That's not exploitation, it's exposure. Joy nodded slowly, her tone sharpening. But you make millions doing it. Isn't there a line between helping and profiting from people's pain? The audience reacted with a few murmurs. Dr. Phil raised an eyebrow. You tell me. This show profits from debate and controversy, doesn't it? Whoopi let out a low chuckle and murmured, Oh boy. Joy smirked, not missing a beat. Touché. But you're not the one asking the questions here. That's fine, Dr. Phil said. Ask away. But if you're gonna dish it out, you better be ready to hear the answers. The audience clapped, half cheering, half gasping. Joy's expression hardened slightly. Okay, she said, sitting up straighter. Then let's get real. You've made statements in the past that rub people the wrong way. About discipline, addiction, even about trauma. You tend to tell people to get over it. Don't you think that's a little outdated? Dr. Phil smiled faintly. I've never told anyone to just get over it. I tell them to work through it. There's a big difference. But people today, he said, gesturing toward the audience, have been trained to think that feelings are facts. And when you build your life around feelings, you end up stuck. Joy rolled her eyes slightly, leaning back in her chair. Oh, come on, Phil. You sound like someone's angry dad. Not everyone can just pull themselves together. Some people need compassion, not lectures. Dr. Phil's tone stayed level, his voice low but steady. Compassion without accountability is just enabling, Joy. You can hug someone right into staying broken if you're not careful. The audience let out a collective, ooh. Joy's lips twitched. You've got away with catchy lines, I'll give you that, she said. But it's easy to sound tough when you're not the one living through trauma. Dr. Phil leaned forward, his gaze piercing. Joy, you don't have to live through trauma to understand it, but you do have to respect the process of healing, and that process starts with telling the truth. Not pity, not applause, truth. The applause sign lit up, and the audience clapped thunderously. Joy's voice raised slightly over the noise. So you're saying the people you lecture on your show just need to face the truth and that's it? What about empathy? I've spent 45 years practicing empathy, Dr. Phil said, his tone sharpening for the first time. Empathy doesn't mean agreement. It means understanding where someone is and helping them take the next step forward. Sometimes that means saying things they don't want to hear. Or things that make good television? Joy shot back. A laugh ran through the audience, but it wasn't friendly. Dr. Phil's expression didn't change. You know, Joy, it's interesting. You talk about me turning people's pain into entertainment. But every morning, millions tune in to watch you argue about the country's problems from a chair. The difference is, I sit across from real people trying to change their lives. You sit across from co-hosts trying to score points. The silence that followed was electric. The cameras captured every flicker of tension in Joy's face as she straightened, blinking. The commercial break ended, but the tension hadn't faded. Producers whispered behind the cameras, deciding whether to double down on the sparks or steer the show back to safer ground. Whoopi glanced between Joy and Dr. Phil as the countdown resumed. The floor manager raised his fingers. 3, 2, 1, and the light above the camera turned red again. Welcome back to The View, Whoopi said with a careful smile. Before the break, we were talking with Dr. Phil McGraw about his new book, The Truth Prescription. The audience applauded lightly, but everyone could feel it, the same energy as right before a thunderstorm. Joy crossed her legs, adjusting her cue cards, trying to keep her smile steady. Dr. Phil sat calmly, hands folded, as though nothing had happened. Whoopi continued, So, Dr. Phil, let's talk about the part of your book where you say people have become addicted to outrage. You wrote, and I quote, "We've traded honesty for hashtags." What do you mean by that? Dr. Phil smiled faintly. Well, Whoopi, we live in a time when people would rather perform empathy than practice it. They get on social media and tear others apart in the name of virtue. It's not about solutions anymore, it's about being loud. You can't fix what you won't face. The audience clapped approvingly. Joy, however, wasn't ready to let him coast. She leaned forward. That's a catchy soundbite, Phil, but I think you're missing something. Sometimes being loud is the only way people get heard, especially the marginalized. I agree, Dr. Phil said, nodding. But shouting doesn't equal healing. Anger can be fuel, but if that's all you run on, you'll burn out. And right now, we've got a whole culture running on fumes of resentment. The audience murmured. Joy smirked slightly. You sound like you're scolding the entire country. Isn't that a bit paternalistic? Dr. Phil's tone was even, but there was steel behind it. If a parent tells a child not to touch a hot stove, that's not paternalism. It's wisdom. And right now, this country's got its hand on the burner. The crowd broke into laughter and applause. Joy laughed too, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Well, maybe it's because people are tired of being told how to live by people in power, or on television. Dr. Phil chuckled. Joy, you and I are both on television right now. The audience laughed again, the tension momentarily breaking into amusement. But Joy wasn't letting go. She leaned forward, eyes narrowing slightly. Fine, let's talk about your show then. You say you help people, but a lot of those episodes end up online as clips with millions of views. People crying, screaming, breaking down. That's trauma as entertainment, Phil. How's that different from exploitation? The audience hushed. The tone had turned sharp again. Dr. Phil took a breath, clasping his hands on the table. You know, Joy, I hear that argument a lot, from people who've never been in my office. Every person who's ever come on my show signed up because they wanted help. And they got it. What the audience sees is 1 hour of a much longer process. You can't help people by pretending their problems don't exist. Joy tilted her head, feigning curiosity. So you're saying every tear, every breakdown, every scream, those are necessary for healing? He met her eyes directly. No, I'm saying every tear is real. You can't heal what you won't feel. If that makes people uncomfortable, maybe it's because they'd rather scroll than face their own reflection. The audience applauded again, longer this time. Dr. Phil's calmness had turned the studio electric. Joy shifted in her seat, but she wasn't finished. Okay, she said, her tone steady but cool. Let's get real. You've built a brand on calling people out. You tell them to stop playing the victim, to take responsibility. That might work in a therapist's office, but on live television it feels harsh. Maybe even cruel. Dr. Phil leaned forward slightly, his voice low, deliberate. Joy, sometimes compassion looks like confrontation. I don't coddle people because I care about where they're going, not where they've been. People don't change by being comfortable.